This is Newsroom. Hello and welcome from Johannesburg in South Africa. I'm Eben Jansen. This show is live. It's broadcast from our studios here in Auckland Park. We're also streaming live on YouTube right now, with the entire show then available on our YouTube channel on demand. Today we talk about corrective rape, a scourge that is not going away in South Africa. It's Women's Month. We look at women's in tourism as Women's Month starts to draw to a close here in South Africa. And then there's updates from Kimberley and a look at a cracking sporting weekend ahead of us. First though, Katrine has the day's news.
Well, hello and welcome to Newsroom. I'm Katrine Malan, and let's take a look at this morning's top stories. Parliament is set to establish a committee to probe the conduct of the economic freedom fighters and a possible censure for the party's members who disrupted proceedings in the National Assembly yesterday. Speaker Baleka Mbete has apologized to President Jacob Zuma. Proceedings were suspended after EFF members of Parliament started heckling Zuma over security upgrades to his Nkandla home.
Sergeant at Arms, please assist me with relieving the members who are in this house who are not serious about this sitting to take their leave.
We are raising a point of order. You're not.
The U.S. Geological Survey has confirmed that a 4.6 magnitude earthquake hit Johannesburg in the early hours of this morning. The quake, which happened around 1 a.m., is the second in South Africa in less than 3 weeks. It occurred 12 kilometers west of Orange Farm, south of Johannesburg. Earlier this month, a man was killed in a mining village near Auckland in the northwest when the 5.5 magnitude earthquake struck the region. Government has issued an Ebola travel ban from high-risk countries such as Sierra Leone, Liberia and Equatorial Guinea. South Africa has so far been Ebola-free despite 2 scares, a South African man returning from Liberia and a Guinean woman, both tested negative. The death toll in the latest outbreak of Ebola in the West Africa already exceeds 1,350 and is expected to rise. Several airlines have cancelled flights to and from the affected countries.
A total travel ban for all non-citizens traveling from these high-risk countries, unless the travel is considered absolutely essential.
In international news, NGO Gift of the Givers is scheduled to fly relief supplies worth 15 million rand to war-torn Gaza as soon as this weekend. The Egyptian government has given permission for doctors, equipment and medical supplies to cross into Gaza via the Rafah border post. The go-ahead follows lengthy negotiations between the South African government and the Egyptians. Now remember, all these top stories are available on our Newsroom Facebook page. You can also follow us on Twitter at SABC Newsroom. Eben, over to you.
Yeah, thank you very much, Katrine. Very good morning if you've just joined us now. Last week, an 18-year-old woman was raped and murdered in Ching, Ventersdorp in Northwest, in what appeared to be corrective rape for being a lesbian. She was raped and strangled with wire and a shoelace. A running hose had been forced into her mouth. Corrective rape appears all too often on our front pages here in South Africa, and now organizations are calling on government to invest in public education programs aimed at changing public attitudes. We ask, what is at the root of this problem? What can be done to see us all living free and equal lives today? To further this discussion, well, in our Cape Town studio, we were supposed to be joined by Vuyiseka Jabula, the Director of Policy Advocacy and Accountability from the Sonke Gender Justice Project. Not ready yet, but in Pretoria, Jay Matlo, the Program Officer of ART LGBT, is joining us. Before we start the discussion, we found the following disturbing clip posted on YouTube not too long ago. It shows how shocking some men's attitudes are towards this issue, corrective rape.
Because of the failure of the relationship that they have, so now they turn now to this new, I don't know if it's the new thing or what, of being a lesbian.
If there's someone who is trying to rape those lesbians, I can appreciate the thing, that is terrible, because we just to let them know they must be in a straight motion of way. I mean, I have no time to rape them, but if there is some of the other guys who wanted to teach them the way, they must rape them, they must rock them. Once she gets raped with the guy, I think she want to know a way and to do something which is nice.
Disturbing indeed. Appears to be corrective rape is the term. Isn't it time we address this problem head on now? This is the question I want to ask Jay Mitloff, who's in our Pretoria studio and is the program officer of Out LGBT. Very good morning to you, sir. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you, sir.
Appears to be corrective rape. Isn't it time we address this problem head on and stop appearing and admitting that we are dealing with this thing called corrective rape? Because we are dealing with this problem, isn't it?
Well, firstly, I just want to talk about the term itself, corrective rape. In our sector, it has proven to be quite problematic because the term corrective rape sort of like reinforces that a person can be cured because of who they are. So basically, we like to use the term, it's basically a violation, a sexual violation based on your sexual orientation or gender identity. And in terms of it getting better, it's getting actually quite worse in terms of we're having a lot of victims in terms of coming to our offices in terms of looking for help, anything from a hate crime to hate speech.
Give us an idea as to how widespread the problem is, not just in the big centres, but throughout the country, and how this kind of thing is being practiced.
It was very difficult to actually measure in terms of numbers how many people go throughout this, because a lot of sexual minorities, which is lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender people, are quite, it's not easy for them to access services in terms of reporting this kind of cases. So what we do know is that we do have experiences where we've done research in collecting experiences of the LGBT people throughout different provinces, through a network of organizations throughout the country, where we've got stories that says people are going through these hardships. And now the problem would be, how do we link them up with justice services so that justice can be served?
What is at the root of this problem, though? Corrective rape, the idea, the practice. Is it cultural hang-ups? Is it financial? What is at the root of this problem, this lack of understanding, it seems?
I think it's a collection of everything you've just mentioned, but I think at the core of it is South Africa's biggest problem is with sexuality and with just basic human sexuality, the notions of how sex and gender and sexual orientation work with each other. And there's a huge gap between people not understanding those issues. And because people don't understand them, people go against differences. People attack on differences largely because they see a different thing as a threat to their own being. So we need radical integration in terms of basic human sexuality education across all curriculum to make people understand.
Thank you. I'm just going to go to Cape Town, where Vuyiseka Dibula, the Director of Policy Advocacy and Accountability from Sonke Gender Justice, have just joined us. Good morning. Better late than never, they say.
Good morning, Eben, and good morning to the listeners.
We're talking about corrective rape, and we've gone down the list a little bit. Key question to you: what is at the root of corrective rape in South Africa? What is driving this continuous practice?
We think what evidence shows and what we see in communities is that part of the problem is gender and the gender roles, that there is a perception or an attitude in society that women traditionally should be a particular group of women, of people that are supposed to be a proper, disciplined, respectful, and women in a particular way. In a particular way, meaning that there is already a notion that there's only one accepted group of women, which is heterosexual women, who can only be in relationship with men. There can be nothing else, nothing different than that. So as soon as women who are gay or bisexual or transgender or men, it's not just also only women, as soon as anyone else steps out of that tradition or that territory, they are then seen as men in the traditional masculinities, seen as that they are transgressing from the norm. Therefore, they need to be corrected and be put back into the norm. And the norm is there's only one way, which is women must have relationships with men, and they must be submissive in those relationships. And therefore, the power is only in the men to decide what to do.
And who decides what that norm is then, according to these people?
It's usually society and culturally prescribed. Sometimes in some areas it's religiously prescribed. So it is society itself, through socialization, through many other forms of educating or upbringing young children in society in a particular way. And already that has been the norm in terms of within the patriarchal system, that in terms of that system, men are in the position of power, men decide what to do on behalf of everyone else. And as soon as there is transition in terms of those gender roles or of power, where women start to step up into positions that are not traditionally seen as women's role, or traditionally women's choices to choose who to date and who not to date or be in a relationship. Therefore, society itself, or particularly men in a patriarchal system, fear that they are going to lose power, and therefore they would challenge that transgression and wanting to discipline, or in this case, wanting to cure women who are transgressing out of that tradition or out of that norm.
Let me go to Mr. Matlo in Pretoria and ask him about, is it worse today than it's been in the past? Is this a problem that's on the increase?
That is a very difficult question to answer, but what I would say is a lot of these cases do happen, but they're very underreported. And like I mentioned earlier on, we have psychosocial support and counseling services that we give to our constituencies, and a lot of them do pose that they're going through struggles in terms of like being assaulted, some even sexually, and we try to encourage them to link them up with the justice system, but a lot of them don't feel safe even to go there because they have fear of secondary victimization due to because people don't understand. And unfortunately also those people don't understand are people who are supposed to give services. So I can't say it's worse or it has, but the point is it's happening. And at this point where we're at, it's clearly becoming even more rapid.
I want to go back to Cape Town. Visek, I want to ask you, obviously some intervention is needed. What kind of intervention would you like to see?
I think the interventions are in different ways. One is at a societal level. How do we prevent this from happening? Part of the challenge is that we have to work with men and boys, because part of what we know, even evidence shows that many of the perpetrators are young men. And therefore, we cannot ignore working with men. Within working with men, for men to understand why gender equality is important and why they need to challenge their own notions of what gender norms are and attitudes, or masculinity is, or femininity, what is that? So within that journey of engaging men themselves need to be then agents of change to advocate for equality amongst women and men in society, but also to accept that there are diversities in terms of sexuality, and they must accept that is the case. And there's not only one sexuality in society, there are many sexualities, and therefore they themselves have to converse in understanding that. But secondly, that power is there to be shared. Power is not only there for men to only enjoy it and therefore impose violence to others who also possess power and challenge to take that power away. So that those journeys have to, or those conversations must occur, or dialogues must occur with men and boys. That will then deal with prevention part of it, where society itself redefines masculinity, redefines femininity, especially in the 21st century, because we live in a society where HIV is very high and the incidences increase, especially where there is threat or even people perpetrating violence, because rape in itself is one of the risk factors to HIV transmission. But the second part is where there is an instance where a man rapes a woman because the woman is a lesbian or a man is gay, then we have to make sure that the law takes its own course. Yeah. So access to justice is very important. And in terms of convictions, we must convict men, hoping that they will then go through rehabilitation in understanding what was wrong in their act so that they don't commit that crime again.
Thank you very much.
But part of what we are not doing very well is prevention. So men continue to do that endlessly, and the cycle feeds itself.
Thank you very much. We've run out of time, unfortunately, this morning. That is Jay Matlow in Pretoria and Vuyiseka Dubuela, who's the Director of Policy for Sonke Gender Justice. We're talking about corrective rape, a scourge that continues to rear its ugly head here in South Africa. Often it goes hand in hand with the murder, often gruesome murder of the victim. Let's take a look at your views on this matter on social media. Ernest Moseki says, how shameful and intolerant can humanity be? Hideous crime. Absolutely correct when we talk about corrective rape. There's no such thing as corrective rape. Rape can never correct anything anyhow. Another lesbian murdered through corrective rape. Come on, South Africa. How many more? Asked Sean Mallers. Verona Madisa says LRT intolerance in our society will be the end of us. That is right. Ignorance and intolerance go hand in hand. How can people think that corrective rape can help those poor girls? What is help when you're hurting people? Obviously, they're not there to help those. They're there to help themselves. LGBT, well, we've missed that final tweet. Looks like our screen grabber has just gone haywire. But let's take a look at the front pages from around the world. World headlines, as it were. The International New York Times this morning seems to be focusing on all the violence and terrorism the world is faced with this week, from Iraq, Gaza to Russia and the Ukraine. The Independent this morning also reporting on Iraq and the clear sign that US President Barack Obama has sent that he will not be deterred by the beheading this week of an American reporter, James Foley. Then, on a lighter note, an adorable picture on the Times this morning as Perry the llama. Can we have a look at Perry? There's Perry the llama. Gets his annual weigh-in. Perry now stands at 6 feet tall. That's exactly my height. Good on you, Perry. You're watching Newsroom on SABC News. We'll be back after a short little break.
Zoom into Africa. This is Ghana. The president is Mr. John Dramani Mahama. Ghana got independent from the United Kingdom on 6 March in 1957. The population is more than 25 million people. One of Ghana's major languages spoken is English. Monetary unit is cedi.
Who are we, you ask? This is who we are.
We are technologically driven.
We are unashamedly Afrocentric.
We advise you not only on legal matters,
but on health issues as well.
We bring imagination to life.
We celebrate arts and culture and lifestyle.
We tackle life challenges head on.
We dig deep. We probe. We question.
We invite you to take a view from our house, as we tell it without fear, separating fiction from factual.
We are the SABC News Channel.
All news, all global, all the time.
Very welcome back to you. You're still with Newsroom on SABC News. Now, since 2010, there's been a movement of change within the tourism sector that focuses on advancing the participation of women in the industry. Now, this month, the Women in Tourism initiative was launched by the National Department of Tourism with new determination to encourage female representation in the sector's economic activities as well as leadership. Now, to tell us more about this exciting initiative, we're joined today from Cape Town by the Deputy Minister of Tourism, Thokozile Gasa. Very good morning to you, ma'am, and thank you for joining us.
Good morning, and good morning to the listeners.
Just give us some of the key objectives. I know you've been driving this process. Give us some of the key objectives of this initiative that you're driving.
Thank you very much. This initiative is a results-driven initiative where women within the sector came together, interacted, and looked at what this initiative would be looking into. First of all, we're looking into the sector commanding a respect for women who are playing a meaningful role within the sector itself. As you know, that it is one of the 6 key growth sectors of our economy as a country. And secondly, that we also are looking into this initiative, making sure that there is economic representation of our women, because there is a very clear indication that whilst they participate from lower levels, they somewhere dwindle as they come up the ladder of moving up into the sector. And the last one in terms of this is recognition for the contribution that they are actually making within the industry. So we're looking into this initiative to really bring forward the contribution of women and making women be in the forefront.
I see here that, you'll be hosting the inaugural Women in Tourism Conference next week, the 28th and 29th of August. Just tell us a little bit, what is the expectation from this conference, ma'am?
The importance of this conference is after this series of interactions with women in tourism, where we had a soft launch during our tourism Indaba in May. We had identified several gaps that women encounter as challenges within the sector, and therefore in the conference that is upcoming on the 28th and 29th, we're seeking to really formalize, to come up with a structured way of interacting and finding such issues as they affect women to be listened to. So we seeking to come up with a forum where women or women's issues, challenges and gaps would get to be further identified, and we look into what research can get into it, and as well find its way into the programs that the department is doing together with the private sector to ensure that programs of women are championed. And as such, we are able, therefore, to see our women getting into the mainstream economy, getting our women having a pool of skills that then we can deploy throughout the industrial value chain, and also exposing opportunities that are there for women within the sector, as well as in the greater economic mainstream. But at the same time, we also are looking at women in tourism getting more organized in order to take up opportunities, because we also have programs to support women. We have programs that create awareness about tourism and tourism opportunities, because we're looking here at women who are employees as well as women who are entrepreneurs within the tourism industry, but also the issue of ownership by women. Because if you look into what is happening at the moment, you find that women, although they are in greater numbers within the industry, most of them in the top echelons, they are just participants in the ownership, not direct owners. Others are in family businesses, others would be board members, but not actually owners of within the industry. So trying to create such platforms through our interaction.
That's wonderful. I wanted to ask you, ma'am, how do we compare when it comes to female or women representation in this tourism sector with the rest of the world, do you think?
For South Africa particularly, we've not yet conducted such a study. But what we know from the global study that has been conducted, we have a lot of women who are participating, but fewer at ownership levels, fewer even at leadership levels, where, for instance, the global study indicates that 1 in 5 ministers globally is a woman. So there are lots of gaps that we have that women could still find opportunities in through that global study. But within us here in South Africa, we only could conduct a minimum assessment of what is happening within the industry. And that assessment only was targeted at looking into issues of transformation within the industry. And therefore, it only gave us a limited picture, which then we think with this kind of formalized engagement will get into more research and also place ourselves into what is it, that kind of picture compared to other countries. So we do have some legal information just for South Africa without us comparing with other countries.
Ma'am, thank you.
Maybe I can share later.
We would love to, and we look forward to the conference next week on the 28th and 29th of August, but we've run out of time this morning. Thank you for joining us live from Cape Town. That's the Deputy Minister of Tourism here in South Africa, Thokozile Kasa, joining us live and giving us, well, women in tourism in South Africa. It's often neglected. We'll look at it in depth at the Women in Tourism Conference here in South Africa. It happens in Johannesburg, in Benoni, next week, Thursday and Friday. Now we've got some breaking news. The Hawks and South African police services swooped on 8 properties in the Kimberley area before sunrise this morning in a raid aimed at smashing a diamond smuggling ring. The operation, that included an undercover infiltration mission, stretches across 4 provinces and is believed diamonds valued at hundreds of millions of rands are involved. Now, our reporter, Northern Cape reporter that is, Ulrich Hendricks, and cameraman Sammy Masemi are with the Hawks. Ulrich, a very good morning to you. Exciting story you have there. Just give us an update.
Hi, good morning, Eben. Well, it's been a year that the Hawks has actually been on this case. They've infiltrated the illicit diamond smuggling or diamond selling ring. They swooped on 8 properties this morning. They're currently busy with one in Mughal Park behind me in the Kimberley area. But to give us more information on what's happening currently is Hawks spokesperson Paul Ramaloko. Paul, what's happening or what's been happening this morning?
Yeah, let me indicate that we have our team of the Hawks members in Gauteng raiding on the other property. The other team is in the Free State and the Northwest, and we have got the main operation here in Kimberley. We are intending to address 35 subjects. Those are people who we have been monitoring for around a year. This is a syndicate which purchase illicit diamond and put it in the illegal market and trade with it. We managed to do controlled purchases to the tune of over 44 million. We got the restraint order for the assets. We believe that they are proceeds of this crime. We will be restraining them. We talk about houses, vehicles to the tune of over 100 million. So we are still busy with the operation now. Once we addressed all targets, we'll be able to give a well-audited report.
You're also raiding a diamond business in town?
Yes, part of the places we will be searching and seizing some stuff from, there is a gold diamond business dealership. We are talking about 3 of them at the moment. These are the businesses they've been using to, process these diamonds from.
And it's not just located in South Africa, or the diamonds are bought here, but it's not just South Africa that's involved.
Yeah, one will understand that this is a syndicate with international, regional, and network all over. So we are busy with the investigation, but we are intending to root them out from, their roots.
And the arrested people, what happens to them? When will they be appearing in court?
After all our targets are nabbed, they will be brought here in Kimberley. We will be taking them to Kimberley Magistrate Court on Monday on charges of dealing, possession, and money laundering.
Well, this City of Diamonds once again has a diamond story. Like the Hawks spokesperson said, diamonds worth about 40 million rand involved in this case, and then also property worth about 100 million rand that they expect to seize today. The suspects will appear in court next Monday, but this is going to take some while because they've been searching this property for about 5 hours, and then, like I said, there's about 8 other properties and 3 other businesses that they are going to raid during the course of the day.
Thank you very much, Ulrich Hendricks. Bring us breaking news there. Diamond bust in Kimberley. It's linked all around the country, and the net goes further around the world. So watch this platform. Ulrich will keep us updated how that story develops on all the rest of it. You can also follow Ulrich on Twitter. He will be tweeting about that story. It's at Ulrich Hendricks. That's where you follow Ulrich on social media. He'll keep you updated what's happening with that story. 40 million rands worth of diamonds at the moment. That number is expected to increase as they continue the search in a further 8 properties, as Ulrich reported there. But let's take a quick look at what's been happening on our social media page. Subhanallah, another experience of an earthquake tremor. Felt it in Lenasia. It awakened us. Did you feel it? Allah forgive and protect us all. Rehana says after that 4.6 magnitude tremor. Tsecho says, this earth tremor got me scared. Yoo-hoo. Some of us were sleeping at that time like babies, didn't feel it. Tsecho says, Clarissa, it was the earth tremor again. It lasted for more than 4 minutes. Wow, I was sleeping like a baby. Can't say I remember anything. I'm sure, like the last time, people would have appreciated the earth tremor during the day so they can let go early from work. It's a Friday. Washley is always looking at an angle, I suppose. Anything to get out of work. It was just a little tremor. Nothing serious. Now let's take a look at what's on our Newsroom Facebook page. Today, you will see there President Jacob Zuma has told Parliament that he's considering submissions made by National Director of Public Prosecutions, Nkolisi Mngasana, and that he will soon meet with him for a second time. Meanwhile, President Jacob Zuma's son, Duduzane, is expected to attend an inquest at the Randburg Magistrates Court today after he allegedly hit a minibus taxi in Rivonia in Johannesburg. And read more on what political parties have to say about the EFF, who forced proceedings in a National Assembly of all places to grind to a halt yesterday. You can find all of those stories and more on our Newsroom Facebook page. Well, it's Friday. It's time for a break. You're watching Newsroom on SABC News.
I once saw a flower blossom through 27 prison bars of yesterday's unjust flames. I felt an old woman's anticipation for the country's first open elections. And I heard the loud celebrations of that flower's historic inauguration. I was there when Unity sang of how the Springbok never held anything back, and we saw a first-time band of 11 men, Shibobo possibility throughout the land. At the foot of Africa, Time remembers how truth can reconcile a people. We carved our name into space, and on the world stage, our art stood united. When we blow that vuvuzela, the whole world goes into a trance. And even in that tearful hour of the flowers' separation, we are a people who see the music and hear the flowers dance. SABC, sharing 20 years of inspiration.
SABC, sharing 20 years of inspiration.
Hello and welcome back. You're with Newsroom on SABC News. Let's take a look at the top stories this morning. Parliament is set to establish a committee to probe the conduct of the economic freedom fighters and a possible censure for the party's members who disrupted proceedings in the National Assembly yesterday. Speaker Baleka Mbete has apologized to President Jacob Zuma. Proceedings were suspended after EFF members of Parliament started heckling Zuma over security upgrades to his Nkandla home. The U.S. Geological Survey has confirmed that a 4.6 magnitude earthquake hit Johannesburg in the early hours of this morning. The quake, which happened around 1 a.m., is the second in South Africa in less than 3 weeks. It occurred 12 kilometers west of Orange Farm, south of Johannesburg. Earlier this month, a man was killed in a mining village near Orkney in the northwest when a 5.5 magnitude earthquake struck the region. And government has issued an Ebola travel ban from high-risk countries such as Sierra Leone, Liberia and Equatorial Guinea. South Africa has so far been Ebola-free despite 2 scares. A South African man returning from Liberia and a Guinean woman. Both tested negative. The death toll in the latest outbreak of the Ebola in West Africa already exceeds 1,350 and is expected to rise. Several airlines have cancelled flights to and from the affected countries. Now remember, all these top stories and more available on our Facebook page. You can also follow us on Twitter at SABC Newsroom. Eben, over to you.
Yeah, thanks, Katrine. Now, the ecological footprint has emerged as one of the world's leading measures of human demand on nature. As our populations grow and global consumption increases, it is important that we measure nature's capacity to meet these demands. Now, Paul Minari is here to talk to us about our impact on the Earth's resources. But before we do that, did the earthquake have any impact on your resources last night?
No, not on any of my resources. But yeah, I'm not even sure I felt it. I thought maybe I was dreaming and just a small tremor in my bed or something.
And me, I didn't feel it at all. It felt maybe I felt like it was a massage or something in the middle of my night. Anyhow, the ecological footprint, what is it and what does it measure?
Okay, so ecological footprint is just the tool that is used to account for what we're using on the planet, or, how much the planet can actually offer us. Yeah. And it is used by governments, educational institutions, individuals, or even companies to actually measure how much of the planet's resources they are using and how much is actually left for us, to sort of
It's sort of our planetary resource budget for the year.
Correct, yes.
And we've spent our budget already for the year in August. Is that right?
Yeah, that's true. The way this is measured is we look at, in global hectares, basically, how much of, arable land and, a sea that we can obviously go for fisheries and all of that, how much is actually available to provide for our needs as humans, either for an individual or for, entire population and the activities, like your minings and all of that stuff. And yes, we have already overshot it. On the 19th of August was the ecological footprint overshot day.
So we are behaving like a parasite that's totally consuming the resource on the planet without thinking about tomorrow.
Correct. That's what we're doing. I mean, if we have a certain budget that we sort of made up for ourselves and we can't keep it up until, the end of the year, because this is a yearly budget that we work on. And if we finish it, 4 or 5 months before the year is ended, that means now we are going in overdraft. So we're using more than that we actually have.
And we continue this year on year on year, and you can see that it's simply not sustainable, Paul. But tell us, what is biocapacity then?
Okay, biocapacity is basically, the biological capacity that the planet has for us. So we looking at in terms of, how many trees do we have to produce so much food or shelter and so on.
Yeah.
And we always finish that, and the sort of carrying capacity or the capacity that, the planet can provide us is not even equal anymore.
I think we have this wrong idea that the planet is an infinite resource, that our economies must grow at 5 to 7% every year. The planet doesn't grow by 5 to 7% every year. It stays the same.
Absolutely. And if you look at what some of the scientists have been saying, guys from the Global Ecological Network, are saying that we actually, at the moment, at our current consumption rate, we need about 1.5 Earths to actually provide for as much as we consume. And we do not have 1.5 planets. We only have one. And there is no, as they always say, there is no planet B. And, as soon as
there is no plan B for us even, Paul. It seems at this rate of consumption that we're consuming the resources and the capacity of the planet, how long before we get past this point of no return?
Well, I actually think we have crossed that line of no return. We're not giving the planet enough chance to recover or, to actually replenish itself in terms of its renewable and non-renewable resources. So we've actually exceeded that line. I mean, we're burning fossil fuels in a rate that the planet cannot even absorb the carbon dioxide anymore. And that's, that's leading to a lot of waste.
It's a beautiful place. It's a pity that we're consuming it. But now, when we get past this point of no return, it means that the planet then fights back with climate change and earthquakes, as we've seen last night. Is the planet ready to spit us out?
I think that for some time now, the planet has been sort of, dealing with us in certain measures. I mean, climate change, yes, of course, it'll come to that point where it says, I can't anymore, you guys have to deal with this or, you are almost out. But the thing about humans is, we must also give ourselves some credit that we are good enough or smart enough to actually always increase our carrying capacity and always develop in such a way that we can actually live with what we have. But the planet has reached that point. I mean, you've seen from the mining, you've seen from how biodiversity is being depleted and all of our resources are running out. I mean, we're expecting coal to be finished, in the next 40 years or so.
And oil, and
oil, even worse. Yeah.
So Paul, you always bring us the good news. Thank you. Thank you for telling us that we are doomed on this planet here on this Friday. Paul Manari is a meteorologist and a man who just loves the planet, everything green. You can get him on Twitter and he'll interact with you and tell you more than just the weather. How do we live better and sustainably? Paul Manari is with us twice a week now. We'll try and make it more because we need to get this message across, Paul. Thank you.
Of course. Thank you very much.
Now we have to move on. The South African Pistol Association has just returned from overseas where they participated in the 2013 world-class event, the German Open. The association was able to send a partially sponsored team through the help of the funding of the National Lottery. The South African team was made up of 5 shooters, although referred to as a high-performance PDI team, actually consists of 3 master shooters of colour. President of the South African Football Association, Muhyiddin Beg, joins us from Cape Town. Good morning, sir, and thank you for joining us.
Good morning. Thanks for having me.
Just tell us a little bit about the trip and what you managed to achieve there.
Okay, well, as usual, a trip overseas is always good and it's fantastic. We get exposed to everything in terms of the sport at a high level. We competed with the German team, as well as about, I think, 6 or 7 other countries, including Australia and Ireland, not to mention Sweden.
Now, give us a little insight about the sport's target shooting, as it was first introduced to the Olympics in 1896 and continues until this day.
Absolutely, and I think that's great for a sport that's gone on for more than 100 years. The sort of target shooting that the South African Pistol Association manages is the target shooting that happens at the Commonwealth Games and the Olympics, as well as a different type of target shooting using revolvers and heavier caliber pistols called PPC, stands for Precision Pistol Competition. It follows competitions or training for police, also developed in 1956 at some American university, to teach people how to handle the firearms in various positions and conditions.
Now, the sport of target shooting always brings in the medals for South Africa. Do you guys get enough support for the amount of medals, 30% at the Commonwealth Games, that you bring home?
The short answer to that is no. We bring home more medals than what we get support. Unfortunately, pistol shooting, I suppose, like many other types of smaller sports, that's what it is. It's small and completely overshadowed by the likes of soccer, cricket, and rugby. We're always looking for support, for financial support, and over the past 20 years, we've shrunk from plus or minus 7,000 members to 500.
And going forward, what is the target or the future of target shooting looking like in South Africa?
Well, first of all, it doesn't look good. And what we need to do is change our approach. So we're going to try and promote target shooting where it actually assists juniors or young people, teenagers, early 20s, with the ability to concentrate. And target shooting, obviously, is all about precision. And we find that most young people competing at a high level, whether it's in the Commonwealth Games, Olympics, etc., they also do pretty well at school and at university. So there's a definite benefit and gain.
Yeah.
It's a relaxing sport, despite all the bangs.
Despite all the bangs.
It's also, and it's an individual sport. It's not a team sport. We may compete in teams of 2 or 3 or more people.
Yeah.
But our scores are calculated individually. And when you're standing there concentrating, nothing exists other than you and what it is that you're doing at that time.
Mr. Beck, thank you for joining us. We run out of time. It's Friday and we've still got to talk sport. Thank you for that contribution from Cape Town. That's the president of the South African Pistol Association, Mr. Muhyiddin Beg, who joined us live from Cape Town. Now joining me in the flesh is Lebohang Dube from our sports desk this morning. Another busy sporting weekend as always. How are you, Lebo?
Good on yourself, Eben.
Very good, man. I want to talk about today first. The team announced, the Bafana ahead of a 2015 Africa Cup of Nations. It's Sheikh Mashaba's first shake, really.
Mm-hmm. Looking at the team, I think we can't really speculate who he will select, but obviously from the few games that have been played this season, so far, I think there have been players that have stood out, that have raised their hands to say that they're up for selection. But I think as well, we shouldn't avoid the fact that he was with the under-20 national team. They went on a West African tour. They went again to play against Cameroon in the first leg of the African Championship qualifiers. They're going to play in the second leg. And I think from the games that he's played with the under-20s, he might then select maybe 1 or 2 players from that team as well. I don't think it will be much of a surprise noting that he has been with the team. But as well, he's not going to ignore the fact that the other players that tried and tested, the experience that they've got in playing in qualifiers, playing in major tournaments, he'll probably select a few from the previous team as well, from the previous coach's team. But I think he'll also have and try and create his own identity in announcing his team.
Let's move to local football. Yeah, it'll be interesting, that announcement, but it's another team announcement. The people care about the football. MTN8 second leg, it's Pirates against Wits, and then somebody's playing. Stars are playing against Chiefs.
I think looking at the fact that Orlando Pirates and Kaizer Chiefs, they both have a 2-0 cushion. They scored 2 goals away from home. So that is the pressure, I think, on both teams. Looking that Pirates played to a 1-1 draw against Amazulu, it might shake them up to improve their performance coming against Bidvest, but they've not been that lucky at the Orlando Stadium. Playing away, they've been able to come with results. Looking that the other teams have managed to secure victories in midweek, so they'll go in with a lot of confidence ahead of their matches. But again, looking at the Kaizer Chiefs and Platinum Stars, we shouldn't be surprised if Platinum Stars try and put in a good performance and try and maybe, push the game maybe to extra time. Looking at the Orlando Pirates and Wits, I think if Pirates play to a draw, that would be maybe a good result for them, because looking at how they've been playing at home, they've not been able to pull a win since playing at home this season.
Yeah, it looks like a Chiefs-Pirates final, and that's what all the fans in the country really want to see. It'll be a great final if that is the case. Now, this weekend also, the Rugby Championship, if we can move on from the football, we see enough Kaizer Chiefs footage anyhow on SABC in general. So let's move on from that. There we have rugby. It's going to be very tough for the Boks this weekend. They're playing away in Argentina. The Argentinians, I had a look at their side. It's a very experienced side that the Argentinians are putting onto the park. This is the one where they really think they can beat the Boks, isn't it?
And again, we must also note that Hernandez is back in the team. And looking that in 2012, they played to a 16-all draw in Mendoza. Last year, they lost by a small margin, 22-17 in Mendoza. They've moved now the match to Salta, the northwest of Argentina, small corner there. And looking at the performance at Loftus Versfeld, it wasn't a good victory, a convincing victory by the Boks. And I think the Argentines, after 18 attempts against the Boks, they'll probably want to pull a victory in Argentina. And looking at the team as well, I think they've improved over the years, and especially against the Boks. So I think Coach Hanneke Meyer should be wary of the Argentines playing especially away from home.
I don't want to be the bearer of bad news for the South African public, but I am willing to put a side wager. Anyone on Twitter want to bet $50 the Boks are going to lose this weekend, Lebo? Are you taking the side bet with me?
I don't think they'll lose. I don't think I want them to lose, so I'll put a $50 there.
50 South African rand. So Lebo Dube is on with me. I say the Boks are going to lose. Unfortunate, but that's true. And quickly, this Tri-Series cricket starts in Zimbabwe. It's great for Zimbabwe that Australia and South Africa are playing there. It's going to be exciting week or two's cricket there, isn't it?
It's going to be exciting. And I think for South Africa as well, the fringe players have actually made their mark. I think they've raised their hands as well ahead of the 2015 World Cup there. I think it's going to be a good test for the South Africans against Australia now, noting that it was a whitewash against Zimbabwe. They'll get a good, strong opponent as they prepare for the World Cup. But I think as well that Zimbabwe have been playing, they put up a good performance as well. So I think that for both countries, for both sided countries, it will be a good test against Australia ahead of the World Cup.
Thank you, Lebo, for joining us. The EFF told me that they are unhappy with the word whitewash. So you have to, when you come back, we have to think of a different word, okay?
I'll make sure I do that.
Thank you. Thanks. Lebo Dube, as always, good for a laugh on a Friday as we look into the weekend. It's been a great week behind us. Keep it safe this weekend. Keep it on the road and keep it with the family. Newsroom is broadcast live from our studios in Auckland Park, Johannesburg, every weekday morning between 9 and 10 a.m. The show repeats at 2 in the afternoon with a rebroadcast at 5 a.m. the following morning. We also stream live on YouTube at that time, with the whole show available on demand on our YouTube channel. This is SABC News. You have been watching Newsroom. We simply love it in the morning.
Welcome to our Friday edition of A View from the House, coming to you live from Parliament. My name is Asanda Mbeche. President Jacob Zuma officially opens the National House of Traditional Leaders and calls on traditional leaders to work closely with elected public representatives.
South Africa is a much better place to live in than it was before 1994. Many of our traditional leaders can attest to that fact, having seen improvements.
A View from the House, weekdays at 2:30 on SABC News.
The shortage of nurses places those nurses who are working under such pressure.
To have one registered nurse looking after a ward full of patients, of over 40 patients, is unreasonable.
But Africa has made tremendous progress. In the year 2012, there were only 50,000 children. 50,000 children too many, but only 50,000 children that died of measles in the whole of Africa, compared to 330,000 in the year 2000.
For all your health issues, join Dr. Sello every Saturday, 9 to 10 a.m. CAT.
we really know the hype is about the new and how about the new cabinet will actually perform. But what role should then the media be playing at this critical stage?
I would hope that the media will give the newly appointed people a benefit of the doubt.
Has the media lost its respect in this regard? We want you to tell us.
The many factors that are hidden from the public in terms of this ought to be brought out by the media.
Watch Media Monitor with me, Alicia Jali, Sundays at 9 a.m. only on the SABC News Channel.